Hey guys, it's Matt. When I was putting the last video together on the analysis of the social dilemma, it's the same question that plagues me time after time. I always find myself saying regarding a minion or regarding a group of people that are carrying forth the agenda of the system, who really knows what's going on? It's just the question that plagues me over and over again. It's the most fascinating thing in the world to me. What does this person know? Are they in on it? And as usual, time and time again, as I really sit down and apply myself to trying to figure out what exactly is going on, the answer always comes back the same. The only way this system or reality can be working the way it works is if almost no one, very, very, very few, are in on it or really know the operations of the mechanism or actually understand the reality levers and buttons. The more I'm back and forth with somebody that's a lot smarter than me in a lot of areas, but I think it's the opposite of the Truman Show. Truman Show, everybody knew their role. Everybody was an actor. Everybody, and whenever there's truth shown in a movie that reveals a lot of truth, there's also incredible deception. It will never, it always goes hand in hand. It's never going to just show you the truth. There's always going to be a way to mislead whenever there's a truth drop in any form of media. So the Truman Show, oh, I'm an actor and I know I'm going to say, hi, Truman. I'm waiting for him. He should be along going to work. And everybody knows their role. Everybody knows it's a TV show. Everybody knows Christoph or whatever, Ed Harris is in the control room. Oh, hi, Truman. But see, the truth drop is like in this reality, it pulls off the same thing basically as the Truman Show, but the guy saying hi Truman just believes he's saying hi to Truman, who he knows, and that's his role, but he has no idea he's an actor. The reality here is too perfect. It's too Goldilocks. It gives just enough conspiracy and things and problems and things to latch on to this community, so we latch on and see all the problems and mistakes on purpose, but it just always gives just enough to the people around us. And we'll talk in this video whether again on how real are the people around us. Are they the same as you and I? Likely no. Likely there are different types of incarnations here, but it gives the people around us just enough so they can see it their way. And you think, well, I just need a little bit more evidence to where it becomes so overwhelming they'll see it my way. But it always just plays that Goldilocks, and the presentation of the Goldilocks reality could be how separate reality bubbles actually merge. When they merge, they're going to merge and find a middle place. I'll never take that off the table, that this guy's reality might be different than mine, but that's something I'm not sure we're going to ever get close to understanding. That just seems so unfathomable and outside anything we can imagine. But again, I'm doing this social network documentary overview, and everybody they interview, they're all playing their exact role on behalf of the system, and they in my opinion, it's the opposite of the Truman Show. They believe every bit of it, and it's incredible how the whatever this place is, this world where we live, it's incredible how it pulls that off. It is incredible. And as I was thinking, one of the things related to this topic is as I was thinking about those subjects, I thought that one of the problems with everybody trying to figure out anything or trying to accomplish anything in this place is they always believe, like just say there's a pen here of information or within the bookends. They believe that all solutions and everything that's happening has to have an explanation that lies in here. And I'll give you an example of those people in the social dilemma, that they created all these social networks, but now they have a conscience and they're going to speak out about the ills and dangers of it and go before Congress, and they're going to present their solution. And everything has to fit inside their little pen or bookends or box. Where one of the greatest things that we bring to the table in this community is we understand that this is a very limited set of information, what we're dealing with here. And there's a whole host of things going on beyond our perception that can't be explained. That's when people start talking about, well, I don't even want to get into all the different, that just makes you look crazy. Although all these things are on the table as to how all this is being pulled off. I don't want to run that list or that police lineup. But at least we see that what's happening, the people that went before Congress and they made their $100 million in Silicon Valley, well, where did good people go wrong creating these addictive social platforms? And man created it, so man can fix it. The same consciousness that created it is the same consciousness that's going to fix it. And at least we see that no, 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 no. There's a whole host of things here outside of your perception that may be going on, or maybe, right? That's absolutely going on. And these people that created these social networks, most of us, I think you would agree with what I would suggest here, were used in some sense to facilitate something that a greater not nilk system, the reality itself, almost like it's alive, or buttons and levers pushed not just by the people that you see on TV. There's a whole other behind the scenes, or we talk about like in the back room, Jared in the back room, but that's just a way to describe the indescribable. We don't know, but at least we see, what we see everything. We see this, but there's just there's 10 times this going on that we at least take into account and give credit to. Where the guy over here, whether he be real or NPC, there's a lot of real spirited souled beings that are just completely slaves to their Facebook, and that's the point of it. It's not, they didn't lay all this stuff down to get the NPCs. I think they can get the NPCs, or the people that are completely lost or never had it in the first place. They can get them pretty easily. But the real evil genius of the way this whole society and system and matrix is designed is to get the real people sucked in. And so there's a ton of real people, and they would never ever, every explanation has to lie between the known understanding or whatever's in their pen, and they would never even think to go outside of it. And even the problem with that is what society through the news media and things like that does to these people is the pen and bookends get smaller and smaller and smaller. The number of possibilities can only come from what the news says can come. So, I mean, sometimes, when we struggle and say, sometimes we question ourselves and say, nobody around us sees what we see. It just takes going over some of the basics to actually say, no, there is no scenario where we're getting this wrong. All right, and the world is truly acting insane, and our perception, for I don't need to sound, we don't like to be arrogant or look down on other people around us, but our perception really is the closest to the truth. Because how can the perception of your neighbor or your cousin, your brother, have equal weight to yours, or be deserved to give equal credit to, say, our perception in the crazy truther community, when all they're doing is parroting back whatever some idiot on the news says to say? I mean, should that outlook on life be given equal weight as an equal possibility of being real, when it's just, I watched Aaron Burnett out front, and then I'm going to tell you what Aaron Burnett out front said. And that's the range of what the people can say. People around, well, Matt, I've seen, I understand, I don't know anybody in the family who was, really seriously stricken. I know some people are getting sick. I mean, but in terms of what the news, see, I'm going to believe the news. The news tells me every night how it's so serious. In Pennsylvania, everything, in Philadelphia, everything, all the restaurants, everything just got shut down again a few weeks ago. All indoor dining. See, that's real because the news says it is. Aaron Burnett just said that. But what about your own perception? What about just the people you interact with, your other friends that are in their 60s and 70s? Are they all just dropping over? Well, no, but that's not important. Matt. The news tells me the statistics are the statistics. Their perceptions are so limited that their ideas, I'm sorry, cannot be given equal weight to ours. So, guys, with that being said, there's a few new. They're like hobo codes, but just for fun. One, and the purpose of this video, I haven't even got into. Let me just get into the purpose of this video. When I was doing the going over the comments on the last video, the social dilemma, which to many the Mandela affected remember the dilemma. Clearly, they remember an M and an M and two instead of two M's and MN at the end of that word. And to the non-Mandela effect, that sounds awfully strange. I know, and I don't want to turn this into an ME conversation. But I was doing going over the comments, and somebody said when I'll just call him Zuck the Borg. We have a new term for Mark. We have a new term, and it's Zuck the Borg. It's like suck the Borg, but it's Zuck the Borg. Somebody commented and said, I can't not say this every time I see. Am I allowed to talk about him like this? A public figure worth 40 billion? Can he needs to be protected? With them calling what they're going to call what I'm saying primate speech. I mean, he $40 billion guy can't take it. I'm just going to assume this is going to be okay. Zuck the Borg comes on, and somebody commented like, "What is that?" Like it implies what we've said, and I'm so walking on eggshells with if I get another hit on primate speech, then I'm done. That I can't even speak openly about a $40 billion public figure. Anyway, whatever. Somebody commented and said is that real? What is that? Who is that? Or what is that? And that gets me every time when I see a comment like that. And I every time my biggest fascination in the world. Yeah, maybe I use that term a little bit too loosely, but one of the things that it just fascinates me to no end is what are these people and what do they know? And the conclusion every time is they know far less and are not in on it like you would think. What is Zuck the Borg? First of all, let's just go over the basics. And let me actually, before we get into what is Zuck the Borg and people, or not people, I don't want to use that term, things like that, what are they? I want to introduce a new term to describe them, like a hobo code, but for fun. Or what was the term? Earth Matrix Minions. Earth Matrix Minions. EMM. I thought I like that. Earth Matrix Minions. That could be a Zuck the Borg. It could be a Lady Gaga, a George Clooney, an Oprah, a news anchor, a skeleton man, Scott Pelley. It could be anybody that shows their big fat face on TV, a governor at a podium. All these minions that run around pushing the agenda of the system is now to me an Earth Matrix Minion. And I thought, is there anything more? Why do I kind of like that? And I thought, well, who's M? Annie M. I thought Aunt M. in The Wizard of Oz, Aunt M. And I thought, well, why would that be related to Aunt M? And I thought, well, she's like a minion or an NPC so isn't she the one that gave Toto away and was like, sorry, Darth? So I looked it up and yeah, as soon as the witch hands order the sheriff. I have order of the sheriff here, and I can take this dog Toto. And as soon as she gets the order, she immediately takes it and turns to Dorothy and says, "We can't go against the law, Dorothy. You can take Toto. We can't." The immediate reaction: we can't go against the law. Oh no! Why would no one can ever do that? If it says we have to crawl around the mall because the C hangs at 18 inches in the air. Oh, that's the 3 sixes. 18 inches in the air, then people are going, you can't go against authority, can't go against the law. I thought, yeah, then that makes sense. We're going to call them Earth Matrix Minions, M. The first reaction is you can't go against the law, Dorothy. That's a minion, whatever, or that's an NPC or whatever that is. So I like that M, and then I put it into the anagram maker, Aunt M, and it's untame, which is interesting. Untame, which is the opposite of that is ultimately what our spirit is, sovereign, untamed, and the whole system here is out to do kind of the opposite to us, to tame, untame. The definition, cannot be controlled, it says, or domesticated. Untamed, not controlled or domesticated. That's exactly what this system is trying to do to real souls and spirit, to control and domesticate them. That's all it does. That's all it's ever done. So although it's the opposite, I kind of like Earth Matrix Minion M. You can just call them Annie M's. But what is Zuck the Borg? You got to always, whenever a question's this difficult, always go back and start the absolute basics. And the absolute basics with understanding what Zuck the Borg is you say two is that's what, like, Bill Clinton dropped in ISIS. Bill Clinton dropped in ISIS. He said, depends what the word is. He just dropped an ISIS. Greg and I were like, yeah. But it's very common in speech, though. A lot of us find ourselves saying that. And I assure you, when we're saying that just in common speech, we're not dropping an ISIS the way Bill Clinton may have been. But the absolute basics and understanding, who is, Governor Wolf, or Governor of California Gavin Newsom, or Melvin P. Gates. Who are these things, right? The absolute basics is you just go to inner knowing, and you just step back and just say every bit of DNA and every connection I have to something outside of here. By the way, spirituality, guys, in these circles, we just talk about spirituality. It's important to sometimes just stop in a second and say, what does that mean? What does that mean? We hear it so much we kind of roll our eyes. And you know what? At the basic definition, all you need to remember about that is a sense of spirituality on the most basic level, and there's no reason to take it past the most basic level. It's just a realization that you are more than this place. It's that simple. It's just a basic realization that is all you are, a human body that's going to live in this place called Earth and then die. No, there's more to me than that. Then that if you believe that you have a sense of spirituality, there's something that will has been, always will be something. There's other facets and aspects of it, connections to other aspects of yourself now, connections to things called higher self. All that spirituality, but basically, it just means more than this. That's all it is. So, when you look at Zuck the Borg, you do inner knowing, inner tuning fork, and you say, is whatever is presenting itself before Congress, is it the same as I am? I can't imagine anybody but a real person, or, a real Pinocchio, not a wood version, a real Pinocchio watching this type of video, and you just every part of your being screams out, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but come on, everybody's going to be like, that ain't this. Whoever's testifying before Congress, that ain't the same as me, man. Well, what do you mean it's not? It's got a body. I don't care. It ain't the same. One of these things is not like the other. That's it. Just, is there any way we're ever going to know? Is he ever going to give a tissue sample up we can look at? No, we just know that whatever that thing is, it's not the same as you and me. So you start at that level when analyzing a minion like a Zuck the Borg, or any of Oprah or an Ellen, and it gets into what I've talked about before, and some great emails and now conversations I'm having with a friend of the channel, Tony, where he's like, Matt, let me help you understand that you're a certain type of incarnation here, and they're a certain type of incarnation here, and he calls them. I always confuse this. It's we would be simultaneous, and they would be sequential incarnations. And he's like, yeah, that's not the same type of Of course, it's going to inhabit the body, whatever it is. But he would say it's not a soulless being. It's not an NPC. It's not something that just is inhabiting the avatar. And he would say they exist too, like an NPC type with a soul that's animated by something else. You have to the engine in the car doesn't just start on its own. You need a spark to start the engine, something to animate the body or the avatar. And this relates to soul. Some people would say whatever. Then some people would say, well, then that what in a squirrel, there goes a squirrel. Something must animate that. Well, yeah, they would. A lot of smart people would say yes, something must animate that. But it's like a type of soul that's more confined here, I guess. A lot of smart people would say. Again, guys, a lot of these, whenever you get into this level, I'm no guru that sat up on some mountaintop in Tibet. When it comes to this level or this type of understanding, I'm a disseminator of information. I've done a lot of research over the years, and I'm good at presenting it back in ways people can understand. I am not a spiritual guru or any. This is not my area. My area is I study false reality, and I'm very good at spotting the tricks and the fakery. And that's not so special anymore because we're all kind of at the level where, like, 8 years ago, I could juggle, and a lot of people here at this channel couldn't juggle. Now everybody can juggle. Everybody can see the same tricks. We've dropped the same veils. So, Matt pointing out every once in a while, I'll pull up something like a John McEnroe, say you cannot be serious. That's all by design. I'll pull that up. But that's my area, and I guess I'm saying everybody watching this is probably come much, much closer to whatever I would say my perception on spotting the tricks. We all can spot the fakery and the tricks at this point. But when I talk about these issues like different types of incarnations, I'm just a disseminator of information where not just Tony, a lot of people have come to me over a lot of years and shared different thoughts and information. And I can kind of get a sense that this information is legitimate. This makes sense into my model or picture of how reality works. So I'm just disseminating back. Guys, I don't want to make sure this is not my area of expertise. But they would say, or going back to what Tony would say, is this Zuck the Borg is a different incarnation, right? It's not everything has a soul or whatever. Even an animal, something needs to turn the car on to be the spark. That's the soul. But some people would say it's more confined to here. It does not have the spiritual connection, a much greater expanse that you would have, or I would have, or a higher self that's not here, or a higher self that actually has multiple incarnations going at the same time, because time basically doesn't exist. It's just our perception. So a Zuck the Borg would be, or an Ellen, pick whatever you want. They would be not an NPC. It's kind of like a middle ground between what you and I are. And I say this like I definitively know. Again, I'm just putting together, the information that I've been given, and some information. Some people, I'm pretty good at this. Some people give me some information. There's no way. It just doesn't feel right. Whoever's presenting it to me. So I'm pretty good at two apples. They both look good and shiny, but one's rotten. I'm pretty good at that also. So, but this, again, these aren't my insights. But they're at first it seemed like they were, and some people would say they're more, and I still believe this, they're more like trapped to this place where we are. They want, in a sense, to trap us, to have us constantly root to it and make contract with it, but they're kind of knowingly like, this is our place. They put the welcome mat out. They're going to be here a long time, and some people would say they one bush dies, President H.W. Bush or Barbara Bush, and then another Bush is born, and it's pretty much probably the same thing, just coming back, maybe with full memory or at least partial memory. This is when you get into these bloodline things where we have a complete mind wipe or memory wipe of whatever we've experienced in the past in another incarnation, or we just come in completely as Tommy, not Tommy Boy, but the Who's Tommy, the deaf, dumb, and blind kid, where some would say these minions, like a Zuck the Borg, would come in with an understanding of some kind, but they're more like, we wanted to say years ago that they're doomed here, though they're doomed to this place. We have spiritual connections. People like Tony who say, well, not so fast. They're kind of they understand what they are. I guess when I say I still believe most aren't in on it, I guess at the very highest levels. But most of the minions running around that may be this type of incarnation, in my opinion, don't understand they're not in on anything. They think what they're doing is just, I don't, when I talk about some of these people, I'm being told they have certain knowledge. I mean, I'm talking about a small percentage of the percentage. I still believe most of the minions that run around just believe in what they're doing, and this is just how the world works, and they don't have any dark insider information like they're running the Truman Show, and how are we going to get the truth community today, and how are we going to send these spiritual beings down closer to the abyss, and how are we going to get them today? I don't think most of them have any understanding of it. And to give you that's not a great example, because I don't want to think of this person as a minion. Maybe they've through their actions or decisions in this life they've chosen to be a minion. But Jim Gardner is the news anchor. Is he still there? I think so. He's been like 40 some years or something. Jim Gardner, Channel 6 Philadelphia Action News. Now, there's not too many people that have carried forth the agenda of the system more than this guy. But I don't want to. I want to make sure I get this out first. He's always seems like the nicest guy, and you can feel like if you ran into him on the street, he would be a nice guy. That's why he's lasted so long. He just has this nice guy feel. Where you can look at the Skeleton Man, the CBS Evening News now on 60 Minutes. Scott, whatever. Can I say his last name? I mean, can he take it? The Skeleton Man, who's all into his looks and his body. He presents himself as very professional and nice, but he just comes across like that. That guy's not nice, man. I would not want to be the only. If I was on like a subway and he's the only other passenger, I wouldn't like that. It would be like being visited by the ghost of Christmas future. It'd be creepy. But Jim Gardner is just warm. But the point is, nice, warm guy. But no one has served the system. Not nobody, but you know what I mean. More than he has, for 40 years, reporting on fires, West Oak Lane fire, tragedies around Philadelphia, the weather. As decades go by, they'll always be scaring you with weather events. So this line of storms, make sure you run to your basement. He just doesn't realize, well, why is the news becoming more sensational? He believes he's helping people. He will literally go to his grave. I sent this to an email. Sent this out to someone in an email recently. He will go to his grave believing he did the right thing and he just helped people his whole career, reported the news. Where you and I can easily see this guy did the exact bidding of what the Not Milk system would want him to do. And this is a minion, or per the choices he's made in this lifetime, he's devolved himself potentially into a minion. Is he a sequential incarnation? I don't know. But the point is, that type of minion, he has no idea how he is beautifully and successfully satisfying the roles and the agendas of what the system wants. And for anybody new to this channel, what this ultimate system wants is very simple. We don't have to understand every bit of it. You just have to back up far enough to see it. And it's simply there's a collection here of real souls and spirits, right? Real people. Some people say that the number of us is actually very, very small. Some people throw out the 144,000. Whatever it is, it's a subset of everything that's here. It's not everybody. The entire goal of the reality itself, you think of it as a whole, call it a name like the not milk, and people, they would say, Matt, be careful. You name it, you're giving it you're giving it energy. You're personifying the egregore. I hear you. I know. I don't know any other way. I got to talk about it. I agree. But well, for now, it is what it is. I'm aware of those concerns. The whole goal of it is to, for lack of, we don't have to understand any more of this, to get people to forget, real people to forget who they really are. And you talk about that in a lot of different ways, to have them cut their own spiritual ties on the aspects of themselves that can connect out of here, to root to this place, to make contract with it, to believe this is all there is, to doom themselves, to drive themselves and their own frequency and harmonics lower. Can't do it directly. It needs you, real people, to do it to themselves. That's the goal of it. Somebody saying, "Well, that's Satan." Is yes, it is. It is very, very similar to the Satan archetype, but there are a few differences. I'm just not going to point at it and call it Satan, because it depends how you interpret this. But one of the main differences that we've started to see in the last few years is, although let me back up and finish this part. It's too important. So the reality works to reduce the human being. It has to get people to do it to themselves, and it does this. It promotes its ideas, its damning ideas, through the minions that run around. We've done this before. Floats a blurry idea. The minions say, "Look how great this is," and it's not going to take shape until real people make it take shape through them bringing it into reality itself. And people have to basically doom and damn themselves. So where was I going with this? The reality uses the minions to get people to, but the thing that we've seen in the last few years is the role of these a-holes running. These a-holes are actually, and many people would interpret this, and they're interpreting this correctly, they're playing a role that it looks so horrible and negative, and by many metrics, of course, it is. The destruction of freedoms, enslavement, putting people into constant states of learned helplessness, and it creates wars, and it creates, in many ways, it creates death and disease. So anybody would say, well, how is that good? It has been good to a degree, but for a segment of us that has used the horrible actions of the a-holes to better ourselves spiritually. All right, the stereotypical role of Satan, if this group plays the Satan role, or Satan, or the adversary, it's always, in that sense, it's always bad. It is just out to doom, to damn. But again, a lot of people have observed, and I have observed this as well, that we wouldn't be where we are. A certain segment of us would not be where we are in terms of our personal development, or our spirituality, or understanding the true nature of ourselves, the 3 steps. We wouldn't be who we are, where we are, without these jerks playing the role that they're playing. In that way, it's been beneficial. There's no, there's a Tears for Fears song on Elemental. It's probably called the Goodnight song. I think it's the last song. Nothing ever changes unless there's some pain. The Goodnight song. I think the last song in Elemental. By the way, Tears for Fears, I mean, just an absolute band that was taken under the dragon's wing very early on. Roland Orzabal, very, very talented. But this band has, I mean, you just look at some of the symbolism, and it just, the messages. They spent a lot of time with the creepy piano player in Under the Silver Lake. And the movie's so bizarre. Most people, it's not right for most people. Just Google the creepy piano player, or YouTube the piano player that writes all the demonic piano player that writes all the songs. You're like, you think Kurt Cobain wrote that? No, I wrote that. Listen, dun, dun, dun. And he was Roland Orzabal is very talented. He wrote a lot of it, I'm sure, but like Sarah McLachlan, they were just taken right under that dragon's wing. So we've Elemental, Tears for Fear. Anyway, Tears for Fear is one of these bands just loaded up with that stuff. Nothing ever changes unless there's some pain. If we were in this golden age, the golden age, we've heard all these stories, and the fruit trees growed, and you just lay around naked, and the fruit trees drop their fruit. Nobody has to. There's no money necessary. It's like time to get whacked off. Nobody wouldn't learn any spiritual lesson. Would you like to get Hermage Aron? That when Captain Picard went to Risa, they played a trick on him. Just said he wants Hermage Aron, like some kinky sex on Risa or something. If that was the golden age, we wouldn't learn anything. Getting Hermage Aron every I was going to say every few hours, but who could accomplish that? That takes a lot of stamina, or at least eat a lot of oysters. That's my day. Those days are over for me. But we wouldn't learn anything. We wouldn't learn anything. You got to get your ass kicked to learn something. The a-holes play their roles. The Zuckerborg, Zuckerborg. What was the term? The Annie-M's, the M's, the Earth Matrix minions play their roles, and for the few of us go, these a-holes, we're learning something about ourselves. Not just about how, well, that's evil, so I can learn to be good. Well, yeah, at the root level, the basics, that's what it's showing you, but it's telling you so much about yourself. You can say they wouldn't be doing all this. Think of the complexity of all the schemes and tricks, the complexity of what they're doing now by itself. Think of the complexity of the 7-Eleven as a part-time job event. You've seen the grids when people put up, this SAIC San Diego was a contractor for this, and it dots up to here, and this Lockheed Martin did this, and this, and this PNAC, and the Council on Foreign Relations, and the grid of things interconnected, and Dick Cheney here, Halliburton. I mean, it just like, well, step two, no near reality could come together in secret to pull all that off. Just that the moon quote landing, no reality could pull all that off or keep things secret. So you don't have to understand exactly how it works. You just have to very quickly move through step two and say there's no real world that could pull all this off. Someone would say, well, Matt, obviously then you're wrong. It's not being pulled off. You're just a conspiracy theorist, and these things are legitimate. These things really happened. This school event really happened the way they said it did or does. And we're at the point it didn't. Okay, we don't have to prove it anymore. I don't need to study tapes of this event or what happened up at the firehouse. Yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. Doing the circles around the firehouse, and I don't need to study this anymore. It did not happen the way authority said or the way Wikipedia says. And there's just there's no semblance of a normal world that could pull all this off. So what is it then? We don't need to know. It doesn't. All that we need to know is step three. We need to know about ourselves. Is it a matrix? Is it this? It's fun to debate all that. It doesn't matter. It's not natural. It's not real. All the things I have to do during the day. It's me here with 4 cats. All right, and these cats, there's a lot to do with them, and they pee outside the box, blah blah. But that's not. How much time should that take up? And then I had to get a tree limb down. It was hanging over the house, and these actually they were working across the street. These tree guys. I'm like, you guys are already here. Take the well. I'm going on like 3 hours of cleanup. They said, well, we can do it, but you got to clean it up and all the. And it didn't look like that big, but it was like the size of a tree in and of itself. But the chainsawing of it, in other words, like, this is unnatural. This shouldn't take this long to clean. I have to go out again today. So it's like, I don't know how people with kids get their stuff done there is like a time compression. Just the number of things in the reality that we say are completely normal, it just that we take for granted. This must be completely normal or organic. I think the whole reality is constructed, so it's a distraction on every level. Even what we need to do for the avatar is, remember the Jerry Seinfeld presentation, saying, well, we have to get up, brush our teeth, floss, go to the bathroom, this, that, eat breakfast, take care of the cat. He said if your car needed that sort of prep work before you just turn the key, you'd never buy it. You'd take it back. You have to do all this stuff. I'm saying it's likely. This is straying into strange areas, guys, but I'm saying it's likely all of these distractions have been engineered over a very long period of time to to basically, like, one distraction is maybe no more or less than another distraction. And I'm not putting this the right way, and these are bad examples, but I think as long as you get the sense of what I'm saying, having to brush your teeth in the morning takes a certain amount of time. That's as far as the not milk reality is concerned. Like, that's a distraction, as well as the new truth video about what just happened, something blowed up or something, Christmas Eve or day or something. I don't really follow the news, but Matt, are you saying that from a reality perspective, brushing your teeth is on par as a distraction with a potentially a false flag event? It's a bad example. It's a bad example. I'm saying from a reality's perspective, it doesn't matter what the distraction is or the nature of the distraction, as long as people are kept from themselves. If people spend all day doing little things, and they just have no time in the day, and they run their kids to cello practice, and they have to brush their teeth, and they have to do their hair. There's a woman with this long curly hair, and that can take a long time for women with long curly hair, and they do their hair, and they do their makeup, and then they have to run here, and then they have to run to cello practice, and then this, and if they can see, that is, from the reality's perspective, to me, that's no different. That person that just runs and runs and runs, keeping up with the Joneses, these Christmas presents have to be returned, I have to wait in line, another distraction. That person's being kept from ever understanding who they truly are, the nature of themselves. That's not any different from the reality's perspective than some truther that lives by himself, that has nothing to do all day long, and just kind of lives in a remote part of whatever, Montana, but just addicted to the truth videos. Here's another video about what happened in this event, or what did really happen to the Pentagon. I'm going to just latch onto that from the reality's perspective. In the back room of the Illuminati Control Center in Chernobyl, say, well, this person is doing these it doesn't matter as long as we have the distraction. It doesn't the truth are watching useless, pointless videos all day long about what happened to the Pentagon. That's keeping them from themselves. This person who spends an hour on their hair, then has to run the kids all over the place, then has to return Christmas presents, then has to go just trivial things. There are people that have to get the car serviced at every 3,000 miles, and then they sit in the dealer because the dealer says your brake pads are a little low, and you sit in the dealer for 8 hours. So the dealer says you need new brake pads. You can't just drive you have to do whatever the dealer says. It's just people that have task lists, and they have to do this. And my wife says we can't get the fish at the Giant. I have to go to the Hills Market to get the fish. But then there's a line, so it doesn't matter. All the nature that there's thousands and millions of different varieties of distraction in this realm. And all of it is to keep you from understanding the true nature of yourself, or to tap into spirituality or whatever. It doesn't matter what trick you fall for. That's why it's served up the most addictive truth videos. And the incredible thing about this reality and the Goldilocks reality is probably 95% of people that made these truth videos weren't in on anything, weren't being paid by some strange shadow company, or they just thought they were trying to help. That's what most of the minions run around like Jim Gardner, thinking they're helping, at the Zuck the Borg level and things like that. There's some creepy backroom conversations, and when you're having a convers if you're Zuck the Borg and you're having a conversation, and you're still, maybe you just created the code for face mash, and a big dragon's wing comes over your head during the conversation, like that the dragon from Game of Thrones. Is this normal? Yeah, it's okay. He's just trying to keep you warm. It's okay. The true story, the backstory on a Zuck the Borg, we'll never know. And one story is just as valid as another. I mean, some would say from one end of the spectrum, okay, these at that level, Matt, $40 billion, whatever, it has to be some sort of bloodlines, has full memory of past incarnations, knows exactly what the role of the a-holes are, maybe. But the other explanation is just as valid. And you know what? The step three, what we have to understand about ourselves, it doesn't matter. It's just fun to ponder. But then once you get hooked here, the other explanation would be that the Social Network, the movie, this guy was a genius coder. He did come home drunk, and he started making this thing where you could, vote on girls and connect to people around Harvard, and created this thing where you could connect with people. And then, of course, but nobody in this community would say it evolved the way Wikipedia says it evolved. Of course, very early on, well, he got a visit, and it would be like opening, a string of delis, a certain part of Brooklyn, and get a visit by Don Corleone's representative or one of the five families, and say, "You have a new partner." Like it could have gone down like, "You have a new partner, and we have government ties and connections, and see, nothing will stand in your way. There's other things called," but and Zuck the Borg may have said, "Well, what about Friendster? That's a big competition of mine. Or, we have connections. It'll go away. It'll go away. Yeah, it'll go. I'm not doing. That's not really. I don't know how to do him, honestly. There's too much in a real spirited being. There's too much. We have too much animation, too much real life to ever. You know how I can imitate certain people? Like you can't imitate him because how do you? Can lifeful beings ever completely act lifeless? I don't think so. I'm not even gonna try. So I'll just do it like that. Like Friendster will go away. It'll go away. You can make that happen. Yeah. Well, MySpace is huge. We're just going to be lucky to compete. It'll go away. You can make MySpace go. Yes. See, we'll use this backstory that Fox, the Fox conglomerate that owns 20th Century Fox and Fox News and whoever that mega billionaire jerk, whatever his name is he Rupert, I guess. Oh, he'll buy it, and then he'll just make bad decisions and ruin it. And people believe that you could just take the greatest website of all time, and just through see it was mismanaged because it was bought by a big corporation, and people will just believe that, and it'll just go away. What, Matt? With this guy making this, Matt? Are you saying that the system cleared out all the potential obstacles to Facebook being a monopoly? Of course, that's what I'm saying. It's obvious. It's obvious. It's how the system does business. So Zuck the Borg, most of what's presented in the movie The Social Network is going to be complete fiction. Or he got that meeting and said, "Yeah, I'll give you an offer that you can't refuse. Sign here." And then maybe he did go, then take his little group to code out in Silicon Valley, and maybe the other parts, are real. But I don't, most of the Social Network's movies not real, But it could have happened like that. It could have. He doesn't mean he was some bloodlines. He could have just. You don't think the systems, when somebody creates something that they can use, we all said, well, they seemed in some cases, in some situations, they seem to be lacking creative power. You don't think they're going to latch on to, that's what makes the story about Facebook even more comical, other than the fact that all the competition just went away, even though. Some people say, "Well, Matt, MySpace existed." Nobody was using it. They didn't make the right decisions. You know what I mean. The other thing I was going to say that makes Facebook, the whole story, not believable, is this part is just comical when you think it through. That Sean, I always confuse it. There was a Sean Fanning and a Sean Parker related to Napster. It's Sean Parker. He showed up on that Social Dilemma too. I said he's a real nice guy. Sean Parker and the movie The Social Network portrays him as he just lost Napster, basically homeless. He's just so cool and everything. He's sleeping around in girls' dorms. There's nowhere to go. He's left basically penniless. He gets in and he cozies up to Zuck the Borg, eventually becomes president of Facebook and makes himself a few $1 billion. He can see that this is going to be the next big thing. Just a guy, months after being ruined via his Napster venture. But as Zuck the Borg sits in Silicon Valley coding and collapses or breaks the server of Harvard because it's so popular and all the Ivy Leagues start using it, all the big tech companies had no idea what was going on. I've been through this scenario before, but it just proves what a ridiculous story the social network is and the Zuck the Borg story is. So let me tell you the little companies that had a little bit of influence at the time when Facebook was coming into its own. You had little companies that never did anything, like Oracle, the obvious one, Microsoft, Apple, but Sun Microsystems, Palm or whatever, 3Com was a big company that owned Palm Pilot. Palm Pilot became bigger than the parent company, 3Com. All these Hewlett Packard, all these, Yahoo was out there. All these companies, including Google or whatever, but I don't know that maybe the timing, but it doesn't really matter. I was out in San Francisco starting in '96, and right in '98, '99, you had 50 big major Silicon Valley companies out there, and they all missed it. Not one of them said, "There's this guy, doing this thing. He's bringing people together." And you know how much extra money these Silicon Valley companies had at the time, with all these venture capitals throwing money at them. And somebody told me, I lived out there in San Francisco for 3 years, from '96. No, I lived in LA from '96 to '99. In San Francisco, moved in '99 to 2002. But somebody told me that, I don't know how they knew all this or what they were connected to. Run into a lot of people. I lived in this city south of Market on Harrison Street. Said that a company at the time, it was just about throwing money everywhere and hoping something stuck. There was so much money. The stock market, the tech craze of the '90s, boom, boom, boom. Secretaries that somebody knew somebody in my family or through my cousin that was a secretary at Yahoo and got in so early. The secretary, through some sort of stock options, became worth almost $2 million through stock options. You heard these stories, but you'd hear stories that, all the money coming in, they can't, just sitting on the money doesn't do anything. So they invest in hundreds and hundreds of other companies. And a company like Intel, for example, they will throw $10 million at this company, $20 million at this company. They'll invest in 100 companies knowing that only 5 might work out into something, and 95 will fail, knowing that 95% of their money is just going to go nowhere. And that's proven in like the 3Com. 3Com became a dying tech company, I think, in the early 2000s. But it bet, and Palm also died, Palm Pilot. But at the time it was huge. It bet on a lot of companies. It bet on this little company called Palm. This little company. You want to be a 60%. It's like Shark Tank. You want to be a 60% owner in this company called Palm. They're making this little thing that fits in your, little stylus and Palm Pilot. You can take little notes. Yeah, give them 20 million. We'll give them 20 million for 60%. Well, the stock of that boomed, and Palm, the little company they invested in, became bigger than the parent. I mentioned that, 3Com. So the point is, they would have been lining up at Zuckerberg's door, and somebody like a representative from Sun Microsystems would have come in and sat down before Zuckerberg and just slid $100 million check over to him. And this is assuming he's just a real kid, just a real coder from Harvard. And anybody that has watched The Social Network too much is going to parrot the same thing and say, "No, Matt, he knew it was worth $1 billion. Sean Parker was saying, you don't think in millions, think in billions. He would have pushed that $100 million check." No, we wouldn't have. Come on. No, he wouldn't have. And I'll wrap this up in a second, guys. If it's a real kid who's a coder, and he was not, remember from The Social Network, he was not privileged like the what were the twins that rode, and they had all this connections and money in the family. You slide the $100 million check over and say we'll take 51%. You still can have 49%, Zuck, and turn this into some mega. And here's 100 million. We'd like he's gonna take it. All right, if anything about the story is real. He's not going to be, oh, Sean Parker said, well, I only think in billions, and here's your $100 million back. No, he would have taken it. So the point is, he would have never been able to develop all this on his own. Some tech company would have been in at the ground level owning 51%. Oracle, Sun Microsystems, whatever. No, Matt, he just knew it was going to amount to him being worth 40 billion, and he turned down all the offers. Believe what you want. No way. It was taken under the dragon's wing of whatever is behind this system, whatever is behind this government. It was taken under the dragon's wing very early, and just because he's worth 40 billion or whatever, it's something like that. I don't know. It doesn't mean he can use it. It doesn't mean, you get the sense, it doesn't mean he can ever get out. At some point, he doesn't even try. First of all, that sort of strange incarnation wouldn't. That's their role. They would never try. But if they were real like you and I, and they're like, okay, I did my thing. I established this thing, Facebook, so now you can track every click and everything that everybody ever looks at. It's the greatest spying device in the history of the world. I did all this, and I've got my 40 billion. Now I'd like to check out, and just like to do some things, and none of them can ever check out. This proves the nature of the system we're dealing with. Warren Buffett will always go to work. Oh, well, but he loves work. None of them ever check out. If you're Melvin P. Gates, Melvin, and if you're getting out of this, it's like, you're not done. I'm not done. I did all this stuff for Microsoft. We pulled all this off. I managed that. I gave you that operating system that you can now track everybody's computer. Windows 10, we just gave it away for free. You give something away for free, you're wary of it. I was like, for free, I don't want that then. It's obviously just going to track everything I do. I turned Windows 10 down. But it's like, I'm checking out. No, you can't. I can't? No, what do I have to do? And I thought this was a canopy. It's a dragon's wing. I thought we were in a tent on a beautiful resort. The leathery wing comes in closer. Now, Melvin P. Gates knows what he's getting into. Who knows what this incarnation is? But just in this fun story, I thought it was a tent. I thought it was a trash can. It just becomes this is a leathery wing. I can't get out. Well, what do I have to do? Well, you have to promote health, and you have to promote. For 15 years, you have to pay on the back end. You just, sign in blood sort of thing. You have to promote action jacksinations for like 15 years. And then we'll let you out, but we'll see. And the same with somebody making an excuse for Zuck the Borg, saying, well, he just loves his work. And does anybody, use your inner knowing, inner tuning for it, does anybody think he can get out? These guys can get out? George Soros will be playing his currency games. They never get out. I'm saying, I just had enough. Never happens. That tells you basically all you need to know about who they are or the contracts they've made, or just can't walk away. And you could do this with a lot of minions across the board. None of them walk away. And if it says they're addicted, Tom Brady, well, he's addicted to the fame okay, but all of them across the board. The Rolling Stones. Where did they come to Philly? A year ago or something like that, or a year and a half ago? 72-year-old, running around. I mean, okay, I know they get the feed off the energy and the incredible energy that comes from a crowded concert, or what's it called? Mana? It doesn't matter. But it's just, at some point, guys, some of these people would check out, and for the most part, none of them check out. Even Paul McCartney comes around every so often and does something, or I don't know. It's just very, very rare. I mean, the only one I can even think of, and I'm sure there's other examples, but you know what I mean. Julius Erving. Obviously, as a basketball, wasn't that big, low level. It wasn't like a LeBron James type today, or a Tom Brady who posed with the covering of the eye, and they are creepy. They've been in some creepy Eyes Wide Shut parties. Like Julius Erving, he just said, I'm retiring. He still could play ball, and he just, they knew he was going to retire. They gave him a little birthday cake when he went the last time he played in Los Angeles. I think they brought out a rocking chair. He just retired and went off and did he just, that's it. He's done. He didn't announce. But it's so lower level, guys. He's not going to be like the Dragons. We're going to say you can't ever get out. He's just some basketball player. Basketball wasn't as big of a deal back then. He never was under the Dragons' wing. But do I have to go that low down, lower level to see somebody that can just walk away from something that made them famous? Ellen keeps popping her face up. It just did any of them ever just go away? And again, even if you can tell me about a few people, I don't care. For the most part, it's almost a rule, and it tells you about the nature of the system that they choose to get involved in. It's the old example of signing in blood with Satan. Or do I think that literally happens? What Bob Dylan said in that 60 Minutes interview? No. He said, "Oh, was Ed Bradley said something like, well, I don't know, said, how come you don't just go off and retire?" I forget what he said. Or he said, "How did you get so famous?" Or "How did the words come to you?" And he said, "Oh, I made a certain deal, a certain pact with the man up, not the man upstairs, but he implied you made a deal with the devil." Do I think that is literal? No, but it implies basically a situation that once a minion, but somebody would say, well, Matt, if these people are a certain type of incarnation, this is their role, and they don't want to get out. This is what they do. This is the role they fulfill, and that is accurate. I don't mean to that's more that's really what I should have been focused on. They don't want to get out, and that's the most important point. The most important point is by the nature that you never do see anybody walk away like what you and I would do if we started a company and we made $200 million and worked 80 hours a week. At some point in our 40s or 50s, we'd say, I've had enough, and sell it and go play golf and go see the Great Pyramid and just do stuff. Because they never get out, it is actually more indicative of, or it shows you potentially the nature of who they are, the nature of that sequential incarnation, and an incarnation in a body or an avatar that's not the same as you and I. So, guys, that's a lot on who potentially Zuck the Borg is. But all the details don't matter. All that matters is these people, and Ellen gives me the same creepy chill. Some people say she's like some higher level handler and she's always walking around with the stars, and whatever that thing is, whatever Zuck the Borg is, all you need to know is, or I'm not saying all you need to know, like I'm telling you, you just feel it. That, do you think it's the same as you from a spiritual perspective of who all you are and what you're capable of? And no, it's not the same as you. What exactly it is, it doesn't matter. We see the trick, we see what the role is, we see the trick of the entire reality to keep you from yourself. It's that simple. It is just coming it's just coming into these realizations and just living it. It's very similar to Star Wars, where the first one, maybe that's why they try to ruin Star Wars. There's so many great truth drops that you have to ruin the whole franchise so people don't take the first few seriously, because the last few are so pathetically bad. Obi-Wan Kenobi just lets himself get struck down. He strike me down, Darth, and I become more powerful than you possibly can imagine, more influential through the ages than you possibly. And it's the same with us in this system. That's what it needs you to do it to yourself. Strike me down, Darth, and I become more powerful than you possibly can imagine. Which basically you can interpret that as keep doing what you're doing, and we see what you're doing, so we understand our own power, understand the nature of ourselves. If you're just nice guys and created a kumbaya system where there was no money and everybody, like Star Trek, everybody just worked to better themselves, I probably would never understand who I really am. It's your a-hole actions that acting to strike me down, and I'm becoming more powerful than you possibly can imagine. It's just the truth drops in Star Wars are off the charts. That's why they're destroying the franchise, and that's the case with a lot of different things. Who knows what Matrix 4 is going to bring. If I had to put money or chips on a certain number on the roulette wheel, I would have to put my chips on how it's been doing business. It's the last installment of a very successful franchise has been to ruin the franchise. The last Terminator was just bizarre. It wasn't as bad as people said, but the good Terminator, of course, was a political statement. You weren't sure if it was a boy or a girl, or that it had to. Just every Star Wars, of course, takes the cake. I mean, the last three were so bad that it was obvious that they were made bad on purpose. You could get a group of eighth graders together after school one day, and they could storyboard better than what was presented. So I would have to assume the Matrix 4 will follow suit and try to destroy the first three by just being so absurd and so bad. Why would I think it would be the one follow-up of an incredible successful franchise? Kind of when the world was the Minion jerks have always been here, but the world was in a different place than it is now. I would think the Matrix 4 is going to be out to destroy the first three, just like the last three Star Wars was out to destroy the first three, and the middle three was just a stepping stone to the destruction. They were good in many ways, they were bad in many ways. Jar Jar Binks. If you're really trying to improve Star Wars, you never introduce the Jar Jar Binks character, and then you have Jar Jar Abrams directing the last two. People believe Star Wars. People believe Disney just did their best. Just put everything. Put Rian Johnson in charge of everything for the second Star Wars. The most important film of all time was The Force Awakens, because you had one chance to bring back Carrie Fisher, and you're rekindling the most incredible movie franchise of all time. The Force Awakens was the most important movie of all time because you have a chance to bring back Chewbacca, Harrison Ford, and Carrie Fisher before she died. And to put that, an eighth grader could have storyboarded it better. People believe that's the best that Disney could do. And we'll talk about that. That's my favorite subject of all time. Why they made it bad on purpose. And I don't care what the Rotten Tomatoes says. It's fake. It's completely fake. Anyway, guys, this has been way too long. Way too long. Thanks for watching and listening. Remember, guys, I don't know. At any moment, I could say the wrong thing, and I have to collect as much information from you as possible in case if something happens again, I'm pretty much done. So please provide your information at nohobocode.com. When it happens, it will be by podcast direct. No platforms. I'm tired of worrying about a platform. Will it be there? Will it like what I'm saying? Will it go out of business? No, just so we lose some opportunity to do some video, or maybe I'll pop up on some YouTube channels so you can see I'm still here, and it'll be MP3, and it'll be like the old-fashioned radio show. There won't be video, but do we really need video? No. YouTube created the situation, not me. I have to move away from YouTube in 2021. NoHoboCode.com. Thanks, guys.